aircraft hidden in a restricted hangar while visiting Wright-Patterson Air Force Base for a pilot's reunion.
To my surprise, I saw this huge disc airplane and was almost wall-to-wall in circumference, and it was jet-powered from what I saw. I started to walk over to look at it, not thinking anything about it, and an armed guard, stopped me and told me I'm not allowed to be in there. So I left, but I did see a large circular airplane in there.
Michael Schratt now had personal testimony from a second witness of the highly classified flying saucer.
He briefly described the exact same aircraft that Jack Pickett had seen it, and described other features that Jack didn't describe. And so when I put these two men together, then I knew I was dealing with a real subject.
Despite much skepticism, Warren Botts, like Pickett, remains convinced.
People that I spoke to since that time said it never existed, which I think they're wrong, because I know what I saw. I believe that we do have flying saucers. They did exist, and they do exist now.
What both men had seen was remarkably similar to the final John Frost Aerocard design, which the American military had reported as abandoned. Many believe that far from being abandoned, research into flying saucer technology had continued.
I think it's definitely being experimented today, because not only can get to your enemy completely unannounced, but you have radar invisibility, you've got the acoustic invisibility, no runways necessary, you have the potential to fly outside our atmosphere into space, and that is the holy grail that the U.S. Air Force always had wanted from the beginning.
There still remains much classified material on the development of flying saucer technology. But by the end of the century, American scientists and engineers had fulfilled many of the hopes and dreams of flying saucers. A fighting machine that could travel at supersonic speed, undetected by radar, based not on a circular disc, but a pyramid. For a period of 15 years, this revolutionary aircraft was classified as a black project, one of America's best-kept secrets. This was the ultimate real UFO, a supersonic strike aircraft, which flew like a jet, but with stealth, unseen by radar. In 1988, the Americans decided to reveal it to the world.
There's an interesting aspect to the reason why the F-117 was exposed to the public at the end of 1988. The airplanes had been restrained to only flying at night. So the pilots are stuck into this airplane on a totally dark airfield in the middle of Nevada. And we, in fact, did finish up losing a couple of pilots by just purely being disoriented in night flying. At that point, the Air Force decided it had better start flying during the day, and if it was going to do that, it was going to give some indication of what was flying, so we weren't going to get a whole raft of more UFO reports.
In order to evade radar and surface-to-air missiles, the Lockheed stealth fighter, the F-117, adopted some of the concepts of the flying saucer. Principally, the idea of the shape of the aircraft determined its visibility to enemy radar.
We got a radar cross-section that was substantially better than anybody ever expected. And the main reason was that we took a different approach to analyzing stealth than had been done in the past, and found out that basically a very shallow pyramidal shape with highly swept back edges gave a much lower cross-section than anything had been done before.
Within 1 year of the stealth fighter being declassified, the Soviet Empire began to disintegrate. On November the 9th, 1989, with the collapse of the Berlin Wall, the borders between East and West Germany were open. The Cold War effectively had come to an end. But it wasn't long before the stealth fighter saw its first combat, spearheading the assault against a new enemy in the Iraq War. Its invisibility to radar, combined with precision bombing, shocked the world.
We could go in there, drop the bombs exactly at the altitude we wanted to with enormous precision, and take out exactly the targets we needed without being seen. And the whole of the Gulf War in the 1991 period was conducted where we had thousands of sorties and we didn't even get a scratch on one of our airplanes.
The unique abilities of the stealth fighter were demonstrated in the Gulf War, but there remained one basic failing. It had to be designed around the needs of a pilot.
Future fighting machines are going to be pilotless. I think the cost, politically and morally, of losing highly trained crew these days seems to point in the direction of UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles.
There is nothing new about the concept of pilotless aircraft. From the early days of flight, many have experimented with the idea. Some with a degree of success. The development of unmanned spaceflight has opened up future aviation possibilities.
The biggest issue in the future is certainly unmanned aircraft. And we can also go down to miniaturized airplanes, which are the order of 6 inches in diameter, and fly those into buildings. And in fact, the whole scope of what can be done in the future is just enormous. It's mind-boggling.
The future is, perhaps, in this new generation of flying machines. The latest Sikorsky Aerobot is capable of high-speed hovering, vertical takeoff, and landing. But these vehicles seem a long way from the dreams of Hitler's flying saucer engineers. Machines on the edge of science fiction, capable of phenomenal supersonic speed. Perhaps the science of flying saucers was never a reality.
As long as you stay close to the ground, you've got yourself an efficient lifting device. It does not make an efficient wing in free air at all. It's just not an efficient shape. And only flying saucers from outer space have been able to do anything with it. And I think they're probably just a figment of the imagination.
Others insist not only that the dream of flying saucer technology is possible, but that concealed from us all, it has already been achieved.
I think that this is the biggest secret that the U.S. Air Force has, and I believe it's high time that the facts about the U.S. Air Force jet-powered flying wing disc program be declassified. There's absolutely no threat to the national security, and it's time that this bird come into the light.
Some of the latest inventions are now in the public domain, but a great many remain secret, fueling more speculation over UFO sightings across our skies. The dream of the ultimate flying machine is still unfulfilled.
He wanted to prove that he was the biggest, so he built an entire country in a way that glorified himself. Only ruins are left from Ramses II's empire, but with 21st century technology, he'll reveal the full scale of his ambitions. The Lost Worlds, next on the History Channel.